Welcome to the How to Heal podcast, the show where we explore real life stories and practical tools to thrive. I'm your host, Lindsay Tremarky Richter, and through over a 15-year journey of all things healing, I'm here to hook it up. If you're feeling overwhelmed, looking for a deeper connection, or straight up in a psycho-spiritual crisis, I got you covered. Let's unearth your unique elixir to purpose, peace, and progress. Here we go. Welcome back to my show. I'm so happy to have you back. Now, since it didn't scare you away with my last episode, and if you didn't listen to it, go listen to it, because I think it's probably the realest episode I've posted about my healing story, some of the shit I had to go through to come to a Jesus moment where I'm like, yo, this is my life. I gotta live it. You know, I actually had someone reach out to me from high school. I hadn't spoken in a really long time. And she was like, I'm not sure the purpose of me saying these things. She kind of told me what was going on in her life, but she's like, but since you're doing it, I'm going to do it. And you know what? For anyone who's listening, who's going through a hard time, no, you don't need to create a podcast to like come and, you know, air out your shit, which is actually not what I'm doing. Obviously, you know that if you're still here listening. But sometimes it can be very cathartic to just write it down, or even better, talk to a trusted friend. And by trusted, I mean, just don't tell anybody things that you don't want getting out. I can only imagine the shit that's like half true going around about who I am, what I've done, all the things. But listen, Mo press is good press. Okay. So that's where I'm at. Also, really funny. I was getting my nails done this weekend with my daughter and my best friend. And one of the women was like, are you famous? And I'm like, not yet, bitch. Not yet. But it was very nice compliments. Obviously, that's the vibe. So, yeah, that's just me. I love the lights, baby. I love the lights. So chase whatever you love. That's the opening message. Okay. So today we're actually doing something totally different. We're going to do an integration episode, and that means we're going to integrate a couple of my pillars. And today we're going to focus on the physical and the mental pillar. This has been such a game changer for me. I mentioned in previous episodes that the integration piece, that while I practice yoga, I've found the most breakthroughs. A physical state of flow, while your endorphins are rushing, you are experiencing the high, you are mobile, because we talk about, I think I talked about in previous episodes, that a trauma response, stored trauma in the body, is when something shocking happens to you and you are unable to move or express yourself through that. So when you're in movement and you're experiencing endorphins and your freedom and liberty to, you literally have freedom and liberty to think or do or say or feel whatever the fuck you want. So that is literally the most powerful way to heal your body, is through movement. And ecstatic dance just comes to mind. I've never done it, but you know, just like moving yourself in an interpretive, cathartic, expressive way where you're like, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm doing. This is the next movement I'm going to make. You know, that is the vibe of what it takes to heal in a physical sense, and marrying that physical and mental component, those physical and mental components. The mental stuff is like really just mindset. It's mindset stuff. It's will, it's determination, it's positive self-talk, it's empowered thinking. The mental stuff is pretty straightforward, Which is why, like, mental health, it's like, oh my God, mental health, it's so hard to wrap your head around. Actually, it's not, because the hard stuff is the emotional health. It's the mental response to the emotions that are coming up that are too difficult to process, or that you've processed in a way that like no longer works and you're not realizing how you're processing. So you mentally divert back to these negative thought patterns, if I haven't lost you there. In order to address the emotional part that is so sort of hard to wrap your hands around, we can really integrate the physical and mental and get to a place where the physical and the mental portions allow you the strength, not only the strength, but just like the confidence. The confidence really comes when you have your mental acts together. And it's a mindset. There's a mindset of confidence. That's why you have sociopaths who are able to dissociate from their emotions and come off completely confident, successful, however, like a normal person, until you unravel the layers and you're like, whoa, this person is not okay. But because their mental game is so strong, they've got it under wraps. So when we are physically in a state of movement, again, when our endorphins are running, or any movement that puts you past a place where you've moved before. And this is really the point of what I'm talking about today, is getting to a place where you feel like it's a breakthrough physically, even if it's the smallest breakthrough. So whether it's like, hey, I went to hot yoga for the first time, check, first breakthrough. Hey, I went to hot yoga. It was the first time that I was able to not leave the room. Check. Hey, I went to hot yoga again, but it was the first time I didn't drink water because I don't need it anymore. Check. Hey, I went to hot yoga. It was the first time that I was able to stay in the room, not drink water, and keep a train of thought that I was able to follow for a really long time that led me to a breakthrough. Check. That's the last check mark where you're like, okay, I've reached the barrier. I've crossed the line. I'm able to exceed a physical limitation that allows me to mentally flow. The mental flow is so directly related to the physical stuff that it's the easiest place to start. Last episode, I told you we were going to get into the physical, and this is really the advanced physical stuff that's going to open new doors of possibility for you. We hear a lot about manifestation, what that means. Oh, we're going to manifest this, manifest that. This is what it takes to manifest. This is the groundwork. This is being grounded in your body. This is making your own miracles. I really want to hear more about making your own miracles and less about manifesting, because manifesting is not this like ethereal thing that we're not able to touch and grasp, and that it's like at the will of whatever. Like, oh, sometimes I manifest, sometimes I don't. It seems so, you can't manifest what is not meant for you. So that's the part that I grapple with manifesting. You're like, oh, people are like, oh, go manifest your dream life, whatever that means. You may think that your dream life is getting married, having kids, and living in suburbia, but your dream life is really to get divorced, be homeschooling your kids and traveling all around the world. You know what I mean? Like, it constantly changes. And for you to be present in the moment is where you manifest, aka where you create the next vision of life that is perfect for you. Because I say this again and again, you have the cards that you were given at the time, and you played the way you knew best to at the time. Once you play those cards, you're probably going to learn what to do and what not to do next time better. And then you're going to play the next hands, and they're going to be different cards. And you're going to continue to learn and learn and learn and learn. So many times I would just read books, and this is really funny. I think one of my next levels in terms of like a physical act is sitting down and reading, like sitting down and really reading books. I listened to like, I don't know, 100 books over the last decade of audiobooks. I love audiobooks, especially like healing ones that are like super weird, like, all different kinds of books, business, finance, personal development, whatever. And I took out a poetry book from Dorothy Parker, Slaughterhouse Five from Kurt Vonnegut, and The Art of War. And I have all these physical books and I brought them into my room. I'm like, you know what? This summer, I'm going to read all of these books. 3 books is not a big deal in terms of an audiobook, but for me to sit down and really pay attention and focus and read is has gotten away from me. And that is another example of physically showing up in a way that you are uncomfortable, that you can get to your next level by just showing up physically in a way that crosses the break, that helps you break through the barrier. You have to know what it feels like to actually do that, to like get to the other side. I feel like so many times we'll read a book and it'll just like, all right, 48 hours, the book is done. And then you don't touch a book for like another 2 years. But like that, then you set a goal and you're like, okay, no, 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 actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to read 3 books this year or whatever it is. But committing to the physical act instead of being like, yeah, I know that. I know that already. I don't need to practice it. So many times I've read healing books or taken healing classes, and I intellectually understand what is being taught or what is being said. And I'm like, but I don't practice it. It's like they give you the prompts in the books and you have to go and write down the journal prompts and then what you're saying after, and you just never do it. I can't stand books like that, by the way. Like I appreciate the journal prompts, but if every book is just going to have journal prompts, like put them in the back and make it like an appendix and like give me the option. Don't make it part of the whole book. It's just like I'm reading, I'm not writing. I'm not pausing to write while I read. I need that separately. Okay. So when I write my book, that's what I'll do. I'll include journal prompts as an appendix. Or I won't. And you can call me out on my shit. But when we commit to what that physical act is, we actually see the results to the other side. We actually feel and integrate what it feels like to succeed and complete the task and be present physically with that moment and that growth. It's similar to like learning a language or doing math. You have to actually speak it. You actually have to calculate. And then at the end, you're like, oh, I completed a sentence. I completed a problem. Like, this is correct. Check. And that's that same feeling that you get when you're even running is a really good example of crossing the threshold of doing something that you didn't think that you were able to do. Anything like long distance swimming, running, mentally being in the zone of discomfort until the point where you have a breakthrough. And when you're in that zone of discomfort, having a breakthrough, you can then, as you get really good at that, and as you get really advanced, you can start bringing in mental concepts as you are physically going through these breakthroughs. So you can start telling yourself whatever it is you need to tell yourself to heal, to love yourself, to be proud of yourself, to address the things that no one else can address, that only you can address, right? So, like, I've told this story. When I practice, I always go back to yoga. Yoga is the best. I really found so much healing through yoga. Maybe it's not for you, but maybe running is, or maybe swimming is, but something has to get you sweating. And I'm sorry, like, that's the answer. We'll talk about meditation probably next week. I don't know, or eventually. Like, same shit. You're not going to like what I'm going to say. Like, you have to just sit down and learn how to fucking meditate, and that's it. So it is what it is. You want to say, oh, meditation's not for me? Okay. As long as you've meditated for like a year straight, where you're like really have a meditation practice, and then you're like, I know what that feels like, then you can tell me it's not for you. Whatever. However long that is for you, I can't even name it. But as long as you've gotten that physical sensation in your body of the breakthrough of this is so uncomfortable, and then you get to a Zen point, that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. I mentioned this in the last episode. I read the book and listened to the audiobook, The China Study. Someone recommended to me and when I was living in the city, and I listened to it. like I binged it. I think it was actually the first audiobook I listened to, and I feel like the book, no joke, is like 24 hours or something stupid. It's a scientific book on the benefits of having like a whole plant-based diet. And after I read that book, I was vegan for about, I don't know, a month or two. And then I was vegetarian and then ultimately like pescatarian. I ate fish for and no meat for about 6 years. And that's an example of what I needed to do to get in touch with how my body responded to food. But you know what it feels like. You know the initial breakthrough that you had of, oh, there's a new energy coming in that I'm welcoming that is more expansive than I thought that I could handle. And it feels really good. So, yeah, when I became vegetarian or pescatarian, it was shocking to my whole family, especially my dad. He was like, I can't believe it. You're not eating meat. Oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, dad, it's been like 2 years. Yeah, dad, it's been 4 years. Yeah, dad, it's been 6 years. Finally he wrapped his head around it right before I was like having dreams about having a burger. And then I broke my vegetarian streak with a filet mignon, which I would not have done that. Um, I would have just gotten like a ribeye or something like something very fatty and delicious. But it was at SW Steakhouse, and I'll tell you, it wasn't even good. SW Steakhouse in Vegas is good, but like I could have did so much better. Should have just had that steak that I was like salivating at Peter Luger's. Anyway, I think that being a vegetarian that long gave me the understanding, okay, of like, okay, this is what it feels like. This is actually what it feels like to not eat animals. This is the kindness that people are motivated to stop eating meat with. Like, it was all of these breakthroughs that I would have normally not had if I hadn't pushed myself out of a comfort zone to experience it. And I never liked long distance running ever. I sucked at long distance running. I remember we had to like run the mile in like seventh and eighth grade. And I was so bad. I was a talented athlete. I could run fast in sprints. I never was able to run long distance. But I committed to running and it felt so amazing. I actually have a pair of sneakers arriving any moment from Brooks because my feet are all messed up from running, and now I'm actually really gonna just commit to it again because I really feel like those next levels come from the places of putting yourself in the discomfort. It's not just listening to this podcast and here and like understanding it and be like, oh yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, great. Now put it on your list and do it. Great. Okay, what are your next steps? We really have to start taking accountability, not just taking in information in these podcasts or listening or having hope or, oh, like this feels so good while I'm doing it. But like, okay, great. What action are you taking? What physical action are you taking? And swimming, same thing. I'm just giving you examples of things that you can do. But again, like, even if you want to just bring in the mental stuff to understand the feeling of like, learning a new language, learning how to play piano, and practicing at it. Those are things. But I really here am talking in this episode about the physical integration of the mental resilience component. Because once you break through, once you do something, once you meditate for 20 minutes and you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. That was amazing. Then the next time you go and do it, you'll have a breakthrough. You'll be able to channel in new forms of growth for yourself mentally to be like, okay, what does this look like? I'm getting a ping about this time I felt really insecure around this person. And while you're in this moment of running, you're rounding your first mile and you have your endorphins are pumping and you're feeling amazing. You hold on to that feeling of being insecure around this person and you rewrite the story right there on the spot. So you'll say, okay, I took that in. What could I have done differently? What could I have said differently? How can I have responded differently? How can I look at the situation differently? I'm going to go back to yoga. When I'm holding a pose, especially a balancing pose, like dancer's pose, and I'm in the hot room and I'm holding dancer's pose and I'm thinking about someone that made me insecure. And then I notice I lose my balance and I fall out of the pose. There's the opportunity. Hold that thought until you can rewrite the story, until you cannot lose balance in the posture. Yesterday, I was working out at Orange Theory. We were doing these like side step out squats with the weights and then stepping back up, but in the same step, bringing your knee up to your chest. And I'm like thinking about high school and stepping out and holding it up to my chest and doing it perfectly for 8 times and saying, if I do this for 8 times, I can address the feelings of inadequacy in high school. While I'm doing this exercise perfectly, I'm addressing the inadequacies I felt in high school. And that's how we mindfully integrate and heal. That's how we use the pillars for us to come together to address the multiple facets of our health that are intertwined. So much is stored in the physical body. We have to mindfully direct the mental and emotional healing through the physical. And, I feel like in the last episode, I'm like, I'll give you guys all the tricks I do. I mean, this is a big trick. I've talked about this, but this is the integration piece. I don't even think it's worth it to come on here and talk about diet. It's like, what diet are you using to lose all your weight? It's like, that's different for everybody. That's different for everybody. And once you cross that barrier, once you cross that level of discomfort, you're like, oh, you start to trust yourself and you start to trust the decisions that you make more. And you start to open your intuition and are able to accept hits of, why don't I try this? Why don't I read this book? Why don't I try this diet? Why don't I take this out of my diet? Why don't I take this supplement? Those are the ways where you start to really intuitively eat. But we can't get to intuitive eating without first clearing the old stagnant energy that sits in the physical body. So that's it. That's the integration piece. Taking the mindset stuff, taking the energetic intuition stuff, and roll and flow with it, motherfuckers. Roll and flow with it. Get into those places of discomfort. And guess what? This doesn't happen like all at once. You're going to put your sneakers on and go out for a run. This month it's so gorgeous in New York. It's my birthday month. I'm so excited. I'm a June baby. And last episode was my 19th episode, and my birthday is the 19th. So it was a very special episode for me, but go check that out. Go check that episode out if you didn't listen. It starts off a little slow, I'm not going to lie, but it gets juicier on the 6-minute mark. And I feel like I just have a lot of gems in there. I come through really clear in that episode. But, you may just tie on your sneakers. You're not just going to lace up your sneakers, go out for a run and hit these things that I'm talking about. Maybe you will, but you really need to break the barrier of discomfort first. I need to break the barrier of discomfort numerous times. Like for me, it took me years. I had to sit down and journal for years until I was able to actually sit down and journal about something that I feel like I was having a breakthrough with. It doesn't, like, we have to build our resiliency towards discomfort. That's what my concern is right now with social media and just constantly having hits of dopamine. We have to put our phones down, guys. It's super fucking unhealthy. Put your phone down. Be present with your kids. Be present with your friends. Be present with your family. That shit is fleeing. The endless stream of information that you're accessing on your phone will continue to be endless streams of bullshit. So put your phone down and engage in the discomfort. Do it for you. Do it for your family. I love you so much. I'm so happy you are here. I cannot wait to speak to you next week. Have an awesome week.